Join ForumIAS Academy, trusted by hundreds of toppers, including IAS Rank 1 𝐂𝐡𝐚𝐧𝐧𝐞𝐥 Sharma.
Hi, my name is Krishnan. These are the 5 articles that we'll be seeing for the day, and towards the end we'll analyze previous year questions. So the first article for the day is about central bank digital currencies. So let us see what the Reserve Bank of India governor is talking about it. So what is the governor telling about it? He's telling central bank digital currencies are solution for what? High cost, low speed, limited access, and insufficient transparency. So what is happening in cross-border payments? All these things are happening. What are happening in payments? If you want to send money to someone who's in another country, let's say you want to send 1,000 rupees, but the cost is you will have to pay another 1,000. So 2,000 rupees you will have to spend. So it's telling it is high cost and low speed. It is taking time, and limited access and insufficient transparency. You don't know how it is happening. So it's telling these are the challenges in cross-border payments. And what is the solution for this? Solution is telling central bank digital currencies. So what is telling central bank digital currencies are faster, cheaper, more transparent, and more inclusive. So it's telling this type of cross-border payment will bring benefits to the people. So all this is telling in the G20 meet. So he's telling what is very important about central bank digital currencies. He's telling instant settlement. So instant you can do settlement. So he's telling that is the most defining feature of central bank digital currency. So he's telling it will be cheaper, faster, and more secure. Next, what he's telling, very important thing, he's telling if you use local currencies in cross-border payments, then he's telling we can save market from global shocks. So why? Because if you're dependent on dollar, based on dollar's fluctuations, your economy will get affected. So he's telling cross-border payment can help you in all these market fluctuations, exchange rate fluctuations, and is telling in fact it will help the development of local foreign exchange and capital markets. So what are the other benefits of central bank digital currency? Is telling if we develop the right technology for central bank digital currency, it should be interoperable. Interoperable means in different systems, in different OS, it should be able to be functioning. So that is interoperable. So it's telling we should come up with technologies like these to make central bank digital currencies more efficient. So summing up, what is telling? It will be an instant settlement feature. It will make cross-border payments more secure. And if you use local currencies in cross-border payments, it will save the market from global shocks. And it should be an interoperable technology. That is, in whatever systems you use, it should be able to work. So it's telling these are the futuristic notions for central bank digital currencies. Now let us move on to the next topic. This topic is about gig jobs. So in this article, we'll see what is gig jobs and what are the data we have with regarding to gig jobs. So India's e-commerce, retail, what is FMCG, fast moving consumer goods, logistics sectors, all these people, they are expected to hire 7 lakh gig workers by November. So who is telling this? Team lease services. And 4 lakh of these gig jobs would be added in South India alone. So where are they going to? More than half of means more than 3.5 lakhs will come from Bengaluru, Chennai and Hyderabad. So just these 3 cities would add 3.5 to 4 lakh jobs. So what are the trends we see? The overall trend is it is going to be very strong even in tier 2 and tier 3 cities. Tier 2, tier 3 cities means other than Delhi, Chennai, Bombay, like that, there are other small cities, right? They are tier 1 and tier 3. So where are these jobs going to be? Warehouse operations. Warehouse operations means where people keep their stock. Last mile delivery personnel, that is people who come and give the product to you. And call center operators. So that is why what a business head is telling. Players have announced bullish plans for the festive season. Generally in India, festive season, there are a lot of consumption that is going on. So a lot of e-commerce players have bullish plans. So why is this happening? industry insiders are telling there is a synergy in the sector. What is the synergy that is happening? Consumer demographic is there. That is, a lot of young people are there and they are working. So they are going to buy. Government's push towards Make in India. So government is also giving a push to Make in India. And FDI has been doing good. And a lot of other initiatives are there. And there is increasing digitization also. So all these things put together is helping the market. So what this team list is finally telling, they are expecting 25% increase in gig jobs pan India. So again they are telling in South India the hiring would be 30% higher than last year. And what is Flipkart telling? They are going to create 1 lakh new job opportunities ahead of the big billion days. All these are going to happen. Why? Because one industry research is telling that India is expected to cross consumer spending in India is expected to cross $4 trillion by 2030. So which means this is 10% compounded annual growth rate. So people are going to spend. So that is why so much money is left. So what is the gig economy? Gig economy means it's a free market system, and mainly temporary positions are common. And there is going to be a contract with independent workers who will work for short-term engagements. This is called gig economy. So in India, 15 million workers are employed across industries such as software, shared services, and professional services. So India is the 5th largest in flexi staffing. So staffers are hired on flexible basis. So that is flexi staffing. So what is India's potential in gig sector? So 56% of the new employment in India is generated by the gig economy only. So not just blue collar, white collar workforce is also becoming gig these days. So gig economy has always been there among blue collar jobs in India, but in white collar also gig economy has come. So in what areas it has come? Project specific consultants, sales people, web designers, content writers, software developers. So all these people are also becoming gig workers only. So what they are telling about gig economy, it can serve up to 90 million jobs. 90 million jobs where? 90 million jobs in the non-farm sector, and they can add 1.25% to the GDP over the long term. So India is moving towards its goal of becoming a US $5 trillion economy by 2025. So as you all know, the gig economy only will be a major building block. So gig economy is the future. So that is what they're trying to tell. Now let us move on to the next topic. This is about selective banning of apps. So people are civil society and regulators are divided over this. So let us see what is this about. So what this Department of Telecommunication has done, it is talking about the possibility of selective app banning. So what is selective app banning? That is, if let's say there's a problem in Manipur, there they will ban WhatsApp. So they'll just ban WhatsApp. So instead of just going for internet shutdowns, they'll just ban certain apps so that messages cannot be sent. So why people are divided over this? Because TRAI has recently published this. So next, what the Cellular Operators Association of India, what they are telling? They are telling messaging services should be regulated under a license. Why they are telling they should be regulated under license? Means then only union government can order them to shut off access. So it's telling they're telling to take that route. So next, what the telecom operators are telling, this has always been there. So for example, let's say we are doing WhatsApp call, the telecom operators are not getting any money for it. No, so telecom operators like Airtel, Vodafone, what they're telling, even if you make WhatsApp call, they should get money for that, because they are incurring cost, because there are a lot of data getting carried on their spectrum. So they're telling WhatsApp should pay them money for that. Next, what they are telling, selective app banning. They're talking about selective app banning, because it is not as extreme as internet shutdown, but few people are criticizing it. What they are telling, we are not very sure of the banning of OTT services because it's ad hoc, ambiguous, and impractical. And next, what they are telling, it can have negative consequences on user choice and freedom. So they are telling we are not for app banning. So far WhatsApp or its parent company Meta has not responded to this. But what the Broadband India Forum, what they are telling, even if you ban, consumers are likely to be more motivated to find some other way they'll find. If let's say you're banning a content on OTT, they'll get it through some other website and things like that. And even if you ban, legally it will not pass the muster because it will go to the court and court will not allow it to be banned. So next what they are talking about, to regulate messaging app, what telecom operators are doing, they're relying on something called as revenue leakage agreements. And next, national security grounds. So telecom operators are what they do, they obey call tapping, interception orders. But what is the problem with WhatsApp? They don't agree to those things because they give metadata, but it is encrypted, right? So even they themselves, WhatsApp itself cannot, if once encrypted, they cannot see what is the content inside it. So that problem is there. Next, they are telling the service providers can provide a solution to disable their apps or service in a particular geography, because anyway they are providing location-based services and take permission to capture users' location. And finally, they are telling there should not be any, don't ban any internet-based services. They are telling that is not a good thing to do. There should be no banning of internet-based services. So who is telling that? There's an advocacy group called Internet Society. So they are telling we will take a strong stand against blocking of content that is there. So this is what this circular from Troy has talked about. Now let us move on to the next article. So what has happened? Minister of State for Defence Ajay Bhatt has released the Maritime Infrastructure Perspective Plan. This is the second edition of the Naval Commanders Conference. So what they have released? They have released Indian Register for Shipping Rules and Regulation Handbook, Family Logbook, Electronic Service Document Project. So the MIPP aims to synchronize and enmesh the infrastructure requirements of the Navy for the next 15 years. And they have a comprehensive perspective plan. And the plan document is aligned with the government's vision on creation of sustainable infrastructure and encompasses salience for compliance with broader policy directives on PM Gati Shakti project, disaster resilience, transition to net zero, among others. So the IRS Rules and Regulations Handbook for Construction and Classification of Naval Combatants has been revised since the previous 2015 edition to cater for technological advancements and Atmanirbharta. So let us see what are the indigenous efforts are there for Navy. So the Navy is ramping up indigenous efforts, especially in weapons and aviation related items. So why they are doing this? Because the government is pushing to cut down on defense imports and boost domestic manufacturing. So indigenous efforts has gained further urgency because of the Russian war in Ukraine, and India is very much dependent on Russian arms, so that is why they are going for indigenization. So, and the Ministry of Defense has released the third positive indigenization list of 101 items, and it comprises a lot of equipments. Now let us move on to the next topic. This topic is about women-led climatic actions. So what they are telling, gender equality and environment goals are mutually reinforcing and create a virtuous circle that will help accelerate the achievement of SDGs. So gender equality and environmental goals. So if you achieve gender equality, environment will be good. Environment goals, if you achieve, then there will be gender equality. So that's what they're telling, mutually reinforcing. So next what they're telling, the impact of climate change is one that has profound consequences for humans and has emerged as one of the biggest global challenges in recent decades. So next what you should know is the effect of climate change can differ based on location, socio-economic status and gender. So what is one ILO study telling? In 2030, 2.2% of total working hours worldwide will be lost to high temperatures. So because of the increasing heat, working hours will be lost. So this means a productivity loss equivalent to 80 million full-time jobs. So this is huge. So the United Nations highlighted that across genders, women are considered to be highly vulnerable and disproportionately affected by climate change than men to the impact of climate change. So this is a known fact. Next what they are telling, women across the world face severe risks to their health, safety and quality of life. However, women in developing and less developed countries, especially in low-income areas, are more vulnerable to climate change because of their dependence on natural resources, and they do labor-intensive work for their livelihood. So this also, like women are more likely to live in poverty than men, So this is just one of the several social, economic and cultural variables that make them more susceptible to the effects of climate change. And women from low income households are more at risk because they are more responsible for food, water and other homely unpaid work. And due to climate crisis, more time and effort are needed to obtain basic necessities. And rural women often shoulder the burden of ensuring access to clean water, adequate cooking fuel, and nutritious food for their families. This also they only have to do. And women may be at increased risk for health and safety because they must travel long distances every day to collect water and fuel. So all these women only do, men don't do. So this is why climate change has a disproportionate effect on rural women. And women in low income countries like South Asia and Sub-Saharan Africa engage in climate vulnerable occupations such as farming and other labor intensive work. And according to ILO, over 60% of working women in Southern Asia and Sub-Saharan Africa are still in agriculture. And here they either do underpaid or they're either underpaid or sometimes they're overworked. And despite being the backbone of food production system, women only own about 10% of the land used for farming. So land ownership is also not there. And a McAllister study has highlighted there could be 1.2 billion climate refugees by 2050. Next, we'll go on to the gender specific issue. According to UN study, 80% of those displaced by climate related disasters are women and girls. Women, especially those from the vulnerable communities, face difficulties during and after natural disasters. And once women are uprooted from their base, they are susceptible to prejudice and exploitation. Now, they are giving the example of Nepal in 2015. What the UN had found is that more women were exposed to trafficking and exploitation. So they were separated from social networks. There was higher risk of gender-based violence, decreased access to employment, education, essential health services, sexual and reproductive health care, psychological support. All these issues women were facing. And women also make up disproportionately large proportion of agricultural workforce in emerging countries. And climate change impacts agricultural productivity negatively and significant. The negativity is very significant also. And heat stress affects a lot of workers in this sector. And there is changing rainfall patterns, extreme weather events. All these things are happening. And the effects you can see on crop production, food security, all these things you can see. And even though women are engaged in agriculture, they do not have access to quality inputs and possess low education and technical knowledge. So what they're telling, women farmers and laborers are vulnerable and they are seriously impacted. And various studies have also shown how flooding has increased water scarcity and also violence against and the exploitation of women. So what they're telling, invest in women's education and training. So climate change exacerbates poverty and socioeconomic vulnerability. So that is why climate change is also linked to women's inequality. And according to estimates, 130 million people could be pushed into poverty by 2050 due to climate change risk, natural disasters, food inflation. All these things will impact women's inequality. So also when it comes to adjusting climate change, women have to suffer a lot. So experts are telling invest in women's education, training, access to resources. Then they will be resilient to the impact of climate change. Next, what they're telling, reduce the negative impacts of climate change on people's living standard by teaching them how to practice sustainable agriculture, water management, and energy generation. So what SEWA had done, it taught women farmers how to respond to shifting climate patterns to support themselves better financially. So it's telling it. So the authors are telling it is essential to support groups that educate the public, train people to adapt to climate change, and invest in women's education and training in environmentally friendly farming methods. And women's participation in climate policy decision making, that is very important. So this is very crucial for effective climate change mitigation and adaptation strategy, as well as for getting decent employment. So women face greater risk in climate change, gender parity. There is gender parity in decision making. So all these things are there. So where they are getting training, there's a program called Gender and Climate Change Development Program. So what they do there is they try to increase women's influence in policy making by providing them a stronger voice. So Globally also similar efforts are required to for efficient climate change adaptation and mitigation. So so that's why they're telling developing and emerging countries urgently need women-led action. So because climate change is since climate change is affecting women more, they should have more say in how it should get tackled. So this is what this article is about.